Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I've been getting a lot of people writing in asking if there are any updates on our efforts to stop the encryption of over-the-air television with the new ATSC 3 standard. And unfortunately, I don't have much in the way of news to report, although an industry spokesman did say that those of us who want to consume television the way we want to are the super sub-minority of the public. I disagree. We're going to explore that and a few other things right now. Now, this week's video is being brought to you by all of you. That includes people who watch this channel on a regular basis, but also those of you who contribute to the channel on an ongoing basis through my donor box page at Lon.TV/support or through Patreon, the YouTube membership program, or Floatplane. I want to thank everyone for your continued support of the channel, and now let's dive into this week's topic. Now, I've got one bit of news that's popped up since the last time we talked about this topic, and that is there are new streaming channels beginning to pop up in select markets across the United States. You can see this from the rabbitears.info website, where they've got a great ATSC 3 market list, which you can find at Lon.TV/ATSC 3 markets. And what you'll see there are the NBC and Fox and ABC affiliates, but also this new one highlighted in green called T2. This is not a Terminator 2 marathon channel, but rather a sports channel covering tennis with the rackets. And what they're doing here is streaming the URL. This is how I understand it works. They stream the URL over the air to your box along with some instructions, and the box goes out and streams the content from the internet. So NBC, Fox, ABC, CBS, PBS are all coming in over the antenna, no internet required. But T2, the only thing you get over the air is an address, and then the box goes to the internet to stream it. Right now, it looks like the markets that have a streaming channel only have T2 as the option. There's really no other channel being streamed at the moment. But I could see broadcasters greatly expanding this as an alternative to Pluto and some of the other over-the-top internet streaming platforms that are out there. So stay tuned for this, because if you have an ATSC 3 tuner, presumably you'll be able to just stream these internet channels alongside the regular over-the-air ones without having to switch to a different app or device. Now, there's one exception to this, which is over in Miami, Florida, where the PBS channels are delivered via ATSC 3 in a streaming fashion like T2. And as you can see here, PBS is not available as a regular over-the-air ATSC 3 channel, although presumably the ATSC 1.0 channel is still available in that way. So I think we're going to see broadcasters ramp up this streaming option because it requires so little over-the-air bandwidth to deliver to customers, yet still allows for some locality of the signals so they can perhaps do some more selective advertising. So that's one of the new things that I'm seeing popping up here with ATSC 3, and when it becomes available in Connecticut, I will give it a shot. I know that this does work with the Zapper box at the moment, and presumably other ATSC 3 tuners should be able to do it as well. So if you have one of these streaming channels, let me know how it's working for you in your market down in the comment stream. So now I want to move on to an interview that Dylan Ross of WNY Over the Air did the other day with David Arland of Arland Communications. Arland represents a number of the industry players in the ATSC 3 rollout, and if you ever get a press release about something happening in the broadcast industry, usually it comes from him. They were very smart to centralize their communications around one company, and David does a good job representing them, I think. And I'm not going to, of course, play the whole interview. I think you should go over to Dylan's channel to see it, and I've got it directly linked on screen here at Lon.TV/ATSC 3 interview. But there are two sections that I think are relevant to the discussions we've been having on this channel for the last several weeks, starting with this one, where David talks about gateway devices that are important to many of us watching this channel. Have a listen.
There is, as you know, a very active, engaged, first mover AVS forum kind of community that wants a gateway device, that wants to spread the content throughout their home. I'm going to say just the home, just for now. You know, I want to have one thing in the basement that feeds 100 rooms in my house.
That is actually what I do, but
perfect. That's great. But you are a super sub-minority.
So a super Sub-minority is how the industry views us right now. I take great exception to this because I think the way most consumers wish to consume content is on whatever device is convenient at the time, whether it be a phone, a computer, a tablet, or something else, like a television maybe. And the way the industry right now wants you watching over-the-air television is locked down on a television and nothing else. But let's take a look at what consumer trends are in this space as it comes to over-the-air content. I went over to Amazon and did a search for TV tuners and then sorted the list of results by the sales of the product. And check this out. The first thing that comes up here is a cheap TV tuner. That would make sense. But look at the next three results. They are Tableau gateway devices, the new one, which just came out recently. And they're selling well over 4,000 of these a month. Now, is that millions of sales? No. But it shows you that there's an interest in this product. And on Amazon, if someone's searching for a TV tuner, more than likely the tuner they're going to buy is a gateway device. And of course, the Tableau there does not work over ATSC 3 because those signals are encrypted. It is ATSC 1.0 only at the moment. And that's the first four results here. Result number 5 is, guess what? The ATSC 3 compatible HD Home Run Flex 4K, which is selling about 500 plus units a month. Now again, the industry will say, well, that's not the millions of TVs that we're selling. That is true, but I would venture to say that of the millions of TVs that are selling, very few of them are actually plugged into an antenna to tune over-the-air ATSC 3 content. Now in the video, Garland does go on to say that ATSC 3 gateway devices are coming, but there's no date certain as to when those devices might appear. He was also asked about the DRM standard that the broadcast industry has adopted, which is Google Widevine, which is not compatible with devices like Apple iPhones, Apple TVs, and iPads. And he says there the industry is still trying to work out some arrangements with Apple to get DRM working on those devices. So we're still a long way off, but the clock is ticking to this 2027 deadline for the transition to occur, and we're not seeing a lot of progress here. Now, back in February, the A3SA, which is the organization responsible for the encryption, put out a press release to say that they released a whole bunch of digital recorder rules that manufacturers can adopt. And they also said that there was some gateway functionality as part of this, but most of it involved only Android devices, not all the other things that we might be using out there. And remember, right now, I can watch ATSC 1 TV on just about anything in my home with a screen, but on ATSC 3, I am significantly restricted when the channel is encrypted. Now, in fairness, in February or around that time, both the Zapper box and the ADTH box both added recording functionality, and you can record and play back ATSC 3 encrypted channels from the SD card that's installed on those devices, but you can only watch that content on the device that the Zapper box or the ADTH is plugged into. You don't get the convenience that you would have if you were paying for a cable subscription, for example, or using one of the many existing gateway products that have been around now for well over a decade. Now, the Zapper box will be getting some gateway support maybe by the end of the summer. However, you will not be able to use encrypted channels over their gateway solution, and you need to use another Zapper box. You can't stream to a much less expensive Roku or Fire TV or whatever. So it's a very limited gateway functionality, as you can see here. They do promise that future releases, but there's no date given, will add support for encrypted content on connected devices within the same home. But this will, of course, require whatever device you're connecting to support the DRM. And right now, Android is all that is supported. Now, another thing that came up in the interview was this notion that broadcasters are adding this functionality to steer customers into subscription services that preserve retransmission fees like they're currently getting from cable operators. Have a listen.
Some people have said, well, you're using content protection because you want to drive people to subscriptions, or you want to stop home recording rights, which is bogus. B-O-G-U-S.
So if this assertion about subscriptions is all bogus, where's the gateway solution for those of us who want to continue watching TV the way we want? It doesn't exist, and we're a year or more into this encryption with no plan for the future. And if we look at where the consumers are, they are dropping their cable subscriptions by the millions. As we reported last week, just between Comcast and Spectrum, more than 1.7 million customers dropped their cable TV subscriptions, which includes their local broadcast stations. And presumably they were watching television on a cable box or some other device that basically had gateway functionality that they're now losing. And clearly those customers, as we saw from the Amazon page, are looking for over-the-air solutions that can bring back some of that functionality in the home. And right now, there is nothing on the ATSC 3 side that works in that way, even though we've got a lot of choices on ATSC 1 for gateway solutions. And if this is such a sub-minority of people, how are all these companies staying in business for as long as they are? Or how are these open source software projects running for as long as they've been running? The reality is there are a lot of people out there that want this and clearly are supporting companies in this industry that can provide this gateway functionality. And at the moment, none of these solutions are going to work when the transition happens, and many of the companies that are making these hardware and software products may find themselves out of business because they can't afford to get certified. So we're limiting consumer choice. We're making it harder for them to watch TV without a subscription. And that is why I think these claims are not bogus, but the reality. So where are the broadcasters coming from on this? Why are they making this so difficult? Well, a few months ago, I had a respectful back and forth over email with David Arland, who provided this to me. He says, I would also ask you to consider the very real situation of content piracy that has affected broadcasters who've had to sue to stop bad actors from simply ripping off signals and redistributing them without permission and for profit from local stations. That's not fair. Courts have agreed. That's the unfortunate reality and one of the reasons that content protection is being applied to free over-the-air television so that OTA can continue to get good content for free for viewers. And what he's talking about here are services like Locast that very quickly built up millions of subscribers in a very short period of time because consumers are hungry to replicate that gateway solution that they might have with their cable or streaming provider, yet pay less money to do it. Now, I get it. This is something that is impacting their bottom line significantly. They depend heavily on retransmission fees, so much so that more than half of their revenue now is coming from subscriptions versus advertising. And there's a whole host of reasons why that shift has been made, but they are so tied to this subscription model that is running counter, I think, to where markets are currently. And to a large degree, they may not be thinking that they're purposely harming consumers here, but we are really collateral damage because if you want to stream TV yourself over the antenna in your home, which is totally legal, you're not able to do it under this new standard the way you could do before. And that severely limits consumer choice. And that is where I'm coming from on this. I don't think this is going to get solved here on YouTube with conflicting statements going back and forth. But where it's going to get solved is either with the FCC or with Congress. And although we might be a super sub-minority, the reality is that we're making an impact here. So if you go to the FCC's filing page, there are currently 4,530 filings on this transition docket. Most of them now are coming from that super sub-minority of people who care about this issue. And if you haven't yet filed with the FCC, you can by going to Lon.TV/FCC instructions, where you too can file something on the docket and make your voice heard as the FCC continues to discuss this topic. I firmly believe the election coming up will be the deciding factor as to where things go, because whoever gets elected will pick the next FCC representatives, at least the majority of them, and those representatives will ultimately make the decision as to whether or not DRM encryption stays in or goes out. So it's going to be a very important year coming up, I think. But if you wanted to make your statement heard to the FCC, please do, because they are seeing this and they will eventually probably meet with me and the Antenna Man to discuss this further. So that's all I got for this one, but I definitely want you to check out Dylan's channel here, WNY Over the Air. He does some great work on this topic and gets into a little more of the technical stuff than I do. So if you are a broadcast TV nerd, this is definitely a channel you need to subscribe to, and hopefully we can get a few more subscribers over his way. So that is going to do it for this one. The super sub minority has spoken, and until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.